Hi, I'm Claudia Donnell and welcome to That's Tasty. We have a great menu for you to learn today. We're going to make homemade pasta. Many of you probably have already made that, but even if you have, so what? We're going to do it again. And if you haven't, you'll see how easy it is, and honestly, you'll never taste anything better. We're also going to pair that up with a nice Bolognese sauce, which sounds difficult, but it's really easy, and one of those things, my favorite, that you put together and then you just let it do its thing. So we're going to start over here at the stove. We're going to start with the Bolognese sauce. Also, one other thing before I get going, there will be the recipe that flashes on the screen. If you don't have time to write it out, email me at claudia@thatstasty.net and I will send it to you. So if you just want to watch my beautiful face and what we have to do, go for it. Otherwise, send me an email and I'll send it back to you. One other thing, I have a live audience today. I have, yay! And it's not that the guys working the camera aren't live, but these are my family and my friends. So here we go, you ready? Bolognese sauce. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put my burner on, because this is a Dutch oven. I've shown you this a million times. This is my favorite working vessel. I want it to get somewhat warm before we go, before we start. And I want to show you, I told you this tip before, but I am unrolling in tin foil celery that I have had for at least a month, if not longer. And the reason why I'm showing you this is because it's a month old and it's still got that nice, crisp, fresh smell and attitude. It's crispy. So take your celery and cucumbers, I do, and roll it in tin foil, and it will stay for long periods of time. What causes damage or decay of your items is air. So this will seal out the air and keep it for you much fresher, so you're not wasting money on things. I'm going to put about 2 tablespoons of olive oil in my pan. This is already chopped up. It's carrots, celery, onion, and very thinly sliced pieces of garlic. There's 2 cloves of garlic in here. So I'm going to put that in, and I'm going to let it sweat, which means it's on a low heat, and it's not going to make any color. It's just going to let all the vegetables that are in there become nice and fragrant and translucent. I have to go back over here because I forgot the salt. We're going to need it back over here, so I'm just going to grab it and we'll put it someplace easy. The best way to season your food is when you're putting in different things. So at each ingredient that you add, you want to put in a little bit of salt and just a little bit of pepper. You season as you go along for each layer of food that you put in. That way, everything is infused with these wonderful seasonings and we don't have to worry about it. So this is on a medium-high heat, and the vegetables are going to get translucent. I have a pound of ground pork and a pound of ground veal. Now here's the deal. That's what the recipe calls for. Sometimes you can't find one or the other. You might find ground pork, you might not find ground veal, but you might find the meatloaf mix at the supermarket, which is ground beef, ground veal, and ground pork. Don't be afraid to change things up a little bit. If you don't like beef or you don't like veal, put in some ground chicken. It's easy. Modify it. Remember, I tell you this all the time, for your own specific needs. So we've got this going nice and translucent. I'm going to push the vegetables to the side, and I'm also going to put this on high because I want the meat to get a nice color. You want it to get nice and brown. So it's on high. I'm just going to break it up a little bit nicey nice. And I'm just gonna let this cook. I want it to brown. We're gonna put another little hair of salt. Boop. Little bit of pepper. Boop. And about 1/4 pound, this is way more than 1/4 pound, 1/4 pound of diced up pancetta. I love pancetta. Pancetta is an Italian bacon, and it does not have that smoky flavor. What it does have is a little bit of a salt flavor and wonderful herbs, but pepper and that sort of thing that's put in it. When you buy pancetta, what you want to do, you can get them at the deli. So buy a few slices, maybe 2 or 3 slices of pancetta, about 1/8 to 1/4 inch thick. And then you can either dice it up or throw it through a food processor, which is what I did here. Look at it, ask them, could I see your pancetta first? And sometimes it comes out pretty fatty, sometimes it's nice and lean. I prefer it to be lean because then you get more flavor and more meat. Doesn't mean it's bad if it's got more fat. Then you're just gonna, as it cooks, the fat will rise to the top and you'll just skim the fat right off the sauce. So don't get all upset about that. This is cooking. I'm gonna go over here and we're gonna start making our pasta. So come on over here. This is pasta flour, and it's a combination of semolina and durum wheat, and that is the best flour. There's like 100 and something, maybe even more, types of wheat out there, and this is not gluten-free. This is very gluten. So if you have a gluten-free issue, then you need to find another type of flour to use. We're going to put 2 cups of flour right on the counter. Just like that. I'm going to make a little well right in here. I have 1 egg. Sorry about this, I thought I had it. I'm going to put a pinch of flour, just a pinch, right in the egg. And I'm going to put a tablespoon of extra virgin olive oil. This is messy, so if you used to like to play with Play-Doh and such when you were a kid, this is for you. I did, so I'm happy. All right, so I'm going to scramble this up just a little bit to mix it. Oh, one other really important ingredient. Pardon me, water. And you want to use cold water, not warm water. And this will probably take about 1/2 cup of water. But it's one of those things where you need to kind of feel it. And if you're making pasta dough, you can't really mess it up, because if it's too sticky, put a little bit more flour. If it's too dry, you put a little bit more water. But you want to do it very, very gradually. So I have this slightly beaten egg I'm going to put right in here. Just like this. I'm going to start to sort of mix it. I'll put a little bit of water, and with my 1 finger, not really, I'm going to start mixing it up. And it's a gradual process, and you're scrambling everything as you're going along. It's getting very nicely mixed, and you just keep doing this, making your hole a little bit bigger, drawing in the flour, little bit more water. I'm talking little, like maybe a tablespoon at a time. And it's going to come together very quickly. Just like this. I used to watch my grandmother, my Nonna, make it. And then my mother would make pasta, always around the holidays. Easter, we'd have homemade raviolis, or Christmas, all the holidays always had a homemade pasta of one form or another. And it was, for us, my generation, a big treat. For my mother's generation, it wasn't, because that's what all the Italian ladies used to do in the neighborhood, is they'd all go from house to house and they'd make batches of pasta and loaves of milk and, I mean, not loaves of milk, loads of homemade delicious Italian bread. Delish. So we're just going to let this all come together. There's no beautiful, genteel way of doing it. You gotta get your hands dirty. This is dry. I wanna go over there in a minute or two, but it'll be okay. And so again, if you make it too dry, put a little bit of water. If it's too sticky, just add the dough. And you knead it, and you knead it, and you knead it, as my Nonna would say, until it's as smooth as a baby's bottom. So that's the goal. And if you don't know what a baby's bottom tastes like, oh my God, feels like, I hope that wasn't Freudian, holy mackerel. Feels like it's like touching the skin of an angel. It's soft, it's smooth, it's beautiful. A little bit dry. Here we go. After you get the dough to the texture that you want, the consistency that you want, you're gonna wrap it and you're gonna let it rest for a little while. I would say let it rest for about a half hour, if not longer. Sometimes I make up a bunch of dough and I put it in saran wrap and I put it in the freezer because I'm going to use it at a different time. Just let it, take it out like an hour or two before, let it defrost nice and easily, and it will be perfect. So it's all, see how it's coming together? Pretty amazing, huh? Egg, oil, water, and flour, and a little bit of salt. You always have to have a little bit of salt. The more you knead it, the better it is. And what happens when you knead it is all the gluten in the wheat starts to activate. When you let it rest, it makes it even better, because what it does is it allows the dough to get stretchy, so that when you put it through your pasta maker, that's what this is, or you use your rolling pin, it rolls out nice and smooth. So I'm just going to let this rest now. You can just do that. Roll your hands together. I'm going to get a piece of saran wrap. And I'm going to roll it up. Just like with your vegetables, you want this airtight. And I'm going to put it in the refrigerator. Let it hang out. So that, ladies and gentlemen, is pasta dough. Pretty cool, huh? Let's go back over here and check out what's going on with the Bolognese. See the color? A little bit too dark, but you know what? Dark meat, browned meat is where you get a lot of your flavor. So I'm mixing up the meats, including the pancetta. Now I'm incorporating the vegetable with it. And we're almost at the point now where we're going to add all the fluid, all the liquids, and let it just do its thing. I'm going to put a little bit more salt, just a little, and a little bit more pepper. It calls for, do you ever see these in the market? This is tube tomato paste. And this is a really, really wonderful little invention, because sometimes you only need a tablespoon of tomato paste, and then you have a whole open can. But if you buy one of these, you can put your tablespoon in, stir it in the refrigerator, and it's good for months because it's sealed. I'm going to lower the heat now to medium. And it calls for a half a tube of tomato paste. Whoop. In the pan, not on the person. Is right. So there's that. This is called a food mill. Have you ever seen one of these before? I grew up with, as a matter of fact, this is my mother's food mill. And when we made tomato sauce, they didn't have purees or anything like that at that time. So my mother has a serious aversion to tomato seeds, really serious. So we put everything through the food mill. This is also something good for you if you want to strain the tomatoes, or if you want to rice potatoes to make nice mashed potatoes, or you're going to make gnocchis. It's the best tool to use for that if you don't have a ricer. And you know what? If you don't have one of these, that's okay. This is a 28-ounce can of Marzano tomatoes. This is what you really want to use. The reason you want to use it is because it's a sweeter tomato and it has very few seeds. If you use other tomatoes, it's going to taste okay, but this is the authentic way to make a bolognese. And you're just going to grind it down so that all of the juice and pulp of the tomato is squeezed through the little mesh bottom. And all the stuff that you don't want, like tomato seeds, will stay where it belongs, someplace where you can throw it out. So I'm just going to do this. The tomato paste is already in there. Just a few more. Ordinarily, I would keep doing this for quite some time, but we have a little bit of a time restraint, so I am going to wipe the bottom and put this in the sink. We have a cup of dry white wine. I use Pinot Grigio because it's nice and mild and dry, and a cup of milk. And we're going to let it mix. Just like this. Mix it up. Get that tomato paste incorporated. Break up the meat a little bit. I kind of like it chunky so that when I have a piece of pasta in my mouth, I get a nice big chunk of meat, sort of like a little meatball. I'm going to throw in a couple of bay leaves. These are fresh. Well, at one time they were fresh. They're starting to get pretty dry, but the flavor is still there. So they're small. So I'm going to put in 3 small ones or 1 good-sized one. And again, it's to whatever your taste like, but it makes a really nice flavor for the sauce. And I'm going to let it come to a boil. And then we're going to lower it, cover it, and let it simmer for a good hour and a half. About halfway through or an hour into it, taste it, see if you can adjust your seasonings at that point in time. And I'm just going to keep it on a medium high and put the lid on it. And we're going to go back over here because we're going to play with the dough now. Excuse me while I wash my hands quickly. Sorry about that. All right. Now we're going to have a little bit of fun. More fun. We already have fun. This is called a dough cutter. Did I need one? No. Did I want one? Yes. Am I proud of it? Not necessarily. But it is. It's a gadget and I like it and I'm proud of it. All right, so we need a little bit of flour. So we're going to cut this into usable pieces, something that's not going to be unwieldy. And when it's not in use, when you're not using the dough, cover it. So we're going to take a piece about that big. I'm going to cover this up, and I'm going to flatten this up a little bit. Roll it in the dough. This is a pasta maker, just like the one my Nonna used. and you start at the lowest number. The lowest number has the rollers at the widest point. And then put your handle in. This is secured to my counter. I'm going to roll. And this is what I like to do by shaping it. I'm going to put a little bit more dough on it, and we're going to run it through like this. You want to run it through 2 times for each number, because that's the way I was taught. There's probably a reason for it. I'm not sure what it is, but 2 per each number. So I just moved it down to 2, which made the rollers a little bit tighter. We're going to have hand-cut pappardelles. Pappardelles are the thicker, wider noodle. A little thinner is a fettuccine, and it goes way down to linguine and spaghetti and angel hair pasta and all that sort of good stuff. I like it so that it's a little bit wider, because when I have a fork full of pasta, I want to feel it in my mouth. And this is on setting number 4, which is where I'm going to keep it. 5 and 6, I don't think I've ever used, because to me it's way too thin. And I get that sad feeling that I'm chewing on air as opposed to chewing on a nice mouthful of pasta. All right. I'm gonna put a little bit more dough on it, flour. I'm gonna cut it in half. You wanna make it about the size of what a fork will take. So about 1 foot, 9-10 inches works best. Unless you really like a big long piece of pasta. Again, it's up to you, it's your preference. And I'm going to very lightly, gently roll it. You want to handle it easily, gently, so that it doesn't stick together. Because if it sticks together, it's going to make a mess. I'm sorry, I thought I brought a knife with me, but we're going to cut now. And I'm going to even this out a little bit. And any scraps, just put to the side. So we're going to make a pappardelle about 1/2 inch, maybe more. But these are hand-cut, homemade pasta. So if you make it for your family and your friends, you don't have to tell them putting the dough together is easy. They don't have to know that. And you don't have to tell them anything about cutting the pasta or anything else being easy, because that's not for them to know. That's for you to know. It's our secret. And then you boil it like regular macaroni. Only this takes a lot less time than the boxes of pasta that you buy in the market. Now, don't get me wrong, I buy those too. And the first time I made homemade pasta for my sons, they were pretty young, and I remember them saying to me, "Oh, I don't ever want any other pasta but the homemade one that you make." And I said to them, forget about it. Then you won't eat macaroni ever again. So here, this is, depending upon your appetite, my appetite, this would probably even be too much for me. But you boil your water. When it comes to a boil, you put some salt in it. Throw these in about 3, maybe 4 minutes. It's going to be ready for you to put the sauce over and be delicious. So that, ladies and gentlemen, is homemade, hand-cut pappardelles. Let's go back over and check out that Bolognese sauce. See how we're doing over here. Looking good. Now I'm going to leave the, boy, when that tomato paste went everywhere. Went on me, went all over the stove. My husband's going to get mad. And we're just gonna let it simmer all by itself. I am, however, going to give it a little bit of a taste right now. See how our seasonings are, because that's pretty important. Now I know it definitely needs more sauce. And it isn't ready yet. Salt, pardon me. It's not ready yet. Obviously, it's only been cooking for a little short period of time. I made an earlier batch. And this is pretty well done. See how the oil comes to the top, and you just take a spoon and skim the top, put it in a can, put it in the freezer, let it freeze. When it's time for you to get rid of it, the grease, it's all frozen and it goes quite nicely in your trash. So I want to taste this. Oh, that is awesome. You can taste the pancetta, the nice flavor of the bay leaf, and all the wonderful things combined. So, this is a great Easter menu for you. I made pasta, I made dough, I made a sauce. The sauce has to cook a little longer, but this is a great recipe for you to use for any spring occasion, fall occasion, winter occasion, summer occasion, doesn't matter, but it's delicious. One caution, if it's really humid out, you got to be careful making your pasta dough because it doesn't like humidity. It's very much like me. I don't like it either. But if it's a nice dry day, it's a perfect day for you to make a nice pound of pasta. So, homemade pasta, hand-cut pappardelles, Bolognese sauce. This is me, I'm Claudia Donnell. We did this at That's Tasty, where great food is made easy. Doesn't get much easier than that. And remember, if you didn't have time to take the recipe, email me at claudia@thatstasty.net. So until the next time, buon appetito. Happy cooking, happy eating.